Today I'm going to show you how to do a quick modification to several different types of baits that I think comes in really handy at certain times of the year and in certain situations. And what that is adding a blade to like a swim jig or a buzzbait or a spinnerbait. I mean, really what this does is it allows you to fish your bait in a little bit different manner and present it to fish that may not normally see it. And I started doing this several years ago when I was fishing a tournament on Lake Cumberland, and I had a really good spinnerbait bite going, but I couldn't get the spinnerbait into the same sort of areas that I could throw a swim jig into. You know, there was a lot of wood, the lake was flooded, the lake definitely had some good color to it. And if I threw just the swim jig, just like a normal swim jig with a, I mean, at that time I was throwing a boot trailer on it. This is a power swimmer, which is one of my favorite presentations. I just wasn't getting the same number of bites. And I think that's because the spinnerbait was giving off a lot of vibration and a lot of flash. And in that dirtier water, it just was drawing more bites. And the problem I was having was I couldn't get the spinnerbait into the same spots that I could throw a swim jig, you know, into the thick brush without getting stuck. So I thought, why not try to throw try to mix the two baits? So I took a swim jig and I mounted a blade on the back, and literally on my first cast I caught a 4-pounder, and it was in a spot that I would not have been able to reach with just a spinnerbait. So I've been doing that ever since then, and I've been experimenting with different baits. And really, for me, the best baits I've found that it works on is a swim jig, adding a third blade to the trailer or to the hook of a spinnerbait, and then also on a buzzbait. And what I really like about the buzzbait is just adding a little bit of a blade on the back adds a little bit of flash, but it also slows the bait up. You can really keep the bait up near the surface and reel it at a much slower pace. So how do we do that? It's really a simple process. All you need is a good ball bearing swivel that has on it split rings that you can open and close like you'd use on any treble hook. Don't get the ball bearing swivels that have the soldered ring shut, because you're not going to be able to get a blade on that. I've got a kit here of different shrink tubing sizes, and all you're going to do is take a piece of your shrink tubing, take whatever blade it is that you want to add, cut a little piece of your shrink tubing off. You want to fit something that is basically a little bit bigger than the size of the split ring that you're using. So, I just size it up. You cut a little tiny piece off like that, slide it over your ring, and then in this case it's shrink tubing, so you got to heat it up. So in this case I've just got a little torch gun. Heat it up, let it shrink down, it'll tighten up, and then at that point what you've done, if you can see it, is it's just you've got your shrink tubing that's tightened up, and then when you slide that over the hook of your bait, depending on what it is, like in this case the spinnerbait, it'll stay on there, it won't come off. If you don't use something that's tight, you'll lose a lot of blades. It'll just be a pain in the butt. But in this case, that'll stay on. That harden up and it becomes like rock solid. It's not moving, and it stays down low on the hook shank, and it definitely doesn't have any effect on your hook sets. I'll do another one here for the buzzbait. I mean, it really takes a second. I like to have a bunch of these made up prior to going out on the water, just so you don't have to mess with it on the water. It doesn't take long to do it, but it's just one of those things. The more prepared you are, the less, the more casts you can make on the water. It just tightens right up. Where's my buzzbait? So with the buzzbaits, I also prefer to do either an Indiana blade or a Colorado blade. Again, you get a lot of slapping on it, and it's not going to run perfect every time, right? But that's not what you want. You just want a little bit of spinning to take place and a kicking around when you've got it on the water. It just adds a little bit of flash. It's a little something different that those fish haven't seen. And I really think it has definitely caught me a few extra fish. So, by making this slight modification, especially like on the swim jig, it becomes a much more weedless spinnerbait is basically what it is. And I'll take them down to the water here and show you a little bit what they look like. But I really think if this is something that that has a time and a place and allows you to offer a different presentation of a bait that is always thrown in those types of areas, and it results in a few extra bites. So give it a chance. It takes a few minutes to do, and it's just something a little different. All right, guys, so you can see we're down here at the water. I'm just going to show you how that works. I mean, it's just flashing away, spinning just like a spinnerbait would. But what you can do, with a swim jig, you can skip it so much better into any area that's got, heavy timber, and you can get it into areas that you can't get a spinnerbait, and it's just much more weedless. And what I'll do is I'll pitch this out along a log and almost work it like a jig, and then just kick it in and get the flash going. It's just a whole different look. This has definitely caught me a lot of fish over the years, and I feel like when you do get bit, the bite is better too in general. It's usually a little bit bigger quality. So just something worth trying. All right, now I've got the spinnerbait tied on, and as you can see, it's a spinnerbait, but it's got a third blade, right? And the third blade really just allows that bait to get a lot more water disturbance. You get more flash, and it really slows the bait up too. So again, if you're fishing in dirty water conditions where blades are really the key, in this case you can add a big thumper blade to the back, and you really just get more water disturbance. And this is one of those things that you can do to generate more bites. And I think we've all found over the years that with like an Alabama rig, more blades are better. And if you can get 3 blades on top of a spinnerbait, that just helps. And in this case, the bottom blade is kind of the strike zone, and it just draws more fish in to bite. All right, and the third bait we did was the buzzbait here. This is a little tougher to see because of the water disturbance from the blade, but you can see I got that little bronze Indiana blade that just kicks away once in a while, creates a little extra flash. The legs of the trailer are hitting the blade, so it's kind of causing a stop and go effect, but it definitely is thumping once in a while, and you can't see it there, but I can definitely feel just that little bit of extra disturbance and that pressure that blade is creating on the bait. So it definitely wants to stay up, just kind of ride real nice. Again, it's another little tip that I definitely think is worth trying. Give it a try. I'll be coming out with a bunch more tips and tricks here, things that I use to help me catch a few fish. In the winter time, I like to tinker with a lot of baits, and this is just one of those little things I'm doing. So if you like this, please follow and subscribe, and stay tuned. We'll have a bunch more for you.